The most dangerous man in Chicago had just bought Ira like merchandise, and in 1 hour she'd become his wife, whether she agreed or not. Park Sung-min's 42 years of violence and power radiated from every inch of his muscular frame as he touched the 19-year-old's chin, tilting her face up to examine his purchase with those pitch-black eyes that saw everything, including how her traitorous body responded to him, despite her terror. Her father's gambling debts meant marry this devastatingly handsome Mafia boss and let him own her completely, or watch video footage of her teenage sisters being tortured to death by Russian enforcers who specialized in making families suffer. The black car pulled up to the tallest building in downtown Chicago, and Ira felt her stomach drop. Through the tinted windows, she could see the glass tower stretching up into the cloudy sky like a giant pointing finger. Her father sat beside her, his hands shaking even though he tried to hide it. He had not spoken to her since they left the airport. The silence felt heavy, like something bad was about to happen. "Papa, please tell me what's going on," Ira said quietly. Her voice sounded small in the expensive car. Her father turned to look at her, and she saw tears in his eyes. "I had no choice, my daughter. The men I owed money to would have killed our entire family. This was the only way to save us." Before Ira could ask more questions, the car door opened. A man in a black suit stood there, his face showing no feelings at all. "Miss Ira, please come with me." Her legs felt like water as she stepped out of the car. The Chicago wind hit her face, so different from the warm air back home in Tanzania. She was only 19 years old, fresh from university, and she had thought coming to America meant starting a new life, but not like this, never like this. The building lobby was all white marble and gold decorations. Her shoes clicked on the floor as she followed the silent man to a private elevator. Her father walked behind her, and she could hear his heavy breathing. When the elevator doors closed, she felt like she was being swallowed by a metal beast. They went up and up and up. Ira watched the numbers climb. 40th floor, 50th floor, 60th floor. Finally, the elevator stopped at the 72nd floor. The doors opened to reveal a hallway with thick carpet and paintings on the walls that probably cost more than her family's entire house. The silent man led them to a pair of huge wooden doors at the end of the hall. He knocked twice, then pushed them open. The office inside was bigger than any room Ira had ever seen. Windows covered one entire wall, showing the whole city of Chicago spread out below, like a toy town. But Ira barely noticed the view. Her eyes locked onto the man sitting behind the massive desk. He was looking down at some papers, giving her a moment to study him. His black hair was styled perfectly, with just a few silver streaks near his temples that made him look powerful rather than old. He wore a suit that fit him like it was painted on, dark gray and clearly expensive. His jaw was strong and sharp, and even sitting down, she could tell he was tall and built with muscles. Then he looked up, and Ira forgot how to breathe. His eyes were the darkest brown she had ever seen, almost black, and they stared at her with an intensity that made her skin feel hot. He did not smile. He did not welcome them. He just looked at her from head to toe, studying every inch of her like she was something he was thinking about buying. "So this is her," he said. His voice was deep and smooth, with just a hint of an accent that made certain words sound different. Not unpleasant, just different. "Yes, Mr. Sung-min," her father said quickly. "This is my daughter, Ira. She is a good girl, educated, respectful. She will make you a good wife." Wife. The word hit Ira like a slap. She had known something bad was coming, but hearing it said out loud made it real. "I did not agree to this," she said, her voice coming out stronger than she felt. "Papa, You cannot sell me like I am a goat at the market." Her father's face went pale. "Ayera, please do not speak like this." But Sung-min held up one hand, and her father immediately went quiet. Those dark eyes fixed on Ayera again, and this time she thought she saw something flicker in them. Interest? Amusement? She could not tell. "Come here," Sung-min said, pointing to the spot right in front of his desk. Ayera's feet moved before her brain could tell them to stop. She walked across the thick carpet until she stood where he had pointed. Up close, she could see he was even more handsome than she had first thought, but in a dangerous way, like a beautiful snake that could kill you. He stood up, and she had to tilt her head back to look at his face. He was at least 6 feet tall, maybe more. He walked around the desk slowly, his eyes never leaving her face. When he stopped right in front of her, she could smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made her head feel dizzy. "How old are you?" he asked. 19, she whispered. Something dark crossed his face. "I am 42 years old, more than twice your age. Does this frighten you?" Ayera wanted to lie and say no, but something told her this man would know if she was not telling the truth. "Yes," she admitted. "Everything about this frightens me." For the first time, his lips curved into something that was almost a smile. "At least you're honest. That is good." He reached out and touched her chin, tilting her face up toward the light from the windows. His fingers were warm and rough, like he was used to working with his hands despite the expensive suits. Ayera's heart pounded so hard she was sure he could hear it. "You are very beautiful," he said quietly, almost like he was talking to himself. "Your father said you were, but I did not believe him. Men always lie about their daughters." "I am not a prize to be won," Ayera said, pulling her chin away from his touch. "I am a person. I have dreams and plans for my life." Sung-min's eyes went cold again. "Your father owed a very bad man $3 million. That man was going to kill him, kill your mother, kill your 2 younger sisters, and burn down everything your family owns. I paid that debt. In exchange, you become my wife. Those are the terms. You can accept them, or I can call that bad man right now and tell him the deal is off." Ayera felt tears burning in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She turned to look at her father, who was standing by the door looking at the floor like a guilty dog. "Is this true, Papa?" she asked. He nodded, still not meeting her eyes. "I am sorry, my daughter. I gambled money that was not mine. I thought I could win it back, but I lost everything. Mr. Sung-min is the only person powerful enough to save us from those men." Ayera looked back at Sung-min. He stood there like a statue, waiting for her answer. She thought about her mother back home, always singing while she cooked. Her 2 little sisters, only 12 and 14 years old, who still played with dolls and dreamed about growing up. Could she let them die just because she wanted to be free? "If I agree," she said slowly, "what exactly do you expect from me?" Sung-min walked back around his desk and sat down. He pressed a button, and the silent man from before appeared at the door. "Take her father to the waiting room," Sung-min ordered. "I want to speak with her alone." Ayera's father started to protest, but one look from Sung-min made him shuffle out quickly. The door closed with a soft click, and suddenly the huge office felt very small. "Sit," Sung-min said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Ayera sat, her hands gripping the armrests to stop them from shaking. "I will be honest with you because I think you deserve that," Sung-min said, leaning back in his chair. "I am not a good man. I run an organization that operates outside the law. I make money from things that would put most people in prison for life. I have enemies who would love to see me dead. Marrying you serves a purpose for me. Your father has connections in Tanzania that I need for my business. This marriage seals that arrangement. So I am just a business deal to you, Ayera said bitterly. Yes, he said simply. But I am not cruel. You will live in my home, and you will want for nothing. You will have money, clothes, anything you desire. I will not hurt you or mistreat you. You will be my wife in every way, and I will protect you with my life. Anyone who tries to harm you will die. That is my promise. In every way, Ayera repeated, her cheeks getting hot because she understood what he meant. You expect me to share your bed? Sungmin's eyes darkened with something that made her stomach flip. You will be my wife. Yes, I expect us to share a bed. But I am not a monster. I will not force you until you are ready. And if I am never ready? He smiled then, a real smile that showed his teeth and made him look younger and even more dangerous. You will be ready, Ayera. I see the way your body responds to me, even now. Your cheeks are flushed, your breathing is faster, your pupils are bigger. You are attracted to me, even if you do not want to admit it. Ayera wanted to deny it, but her traitorous body proved him right. Just sitting here talking to him made her feel things she had never felt before. Confusing things, scary things, exciting things. The wedding will happen tonight, Sungmin continued. I have already made the arrangements. A judge will come here to perform the ceremony. We will sign the papers, and it will be legal. Then you will come home with me. Tonight? Ayera's voice came out as a squeak. But I just arrived in Chicago a few hours ago. I have not even seen the city. You will have plenty of time to see the city, Sungmin said. You will be living here permanently. He stood up and pressed another button on his desk. A side door opened, and a woman walked in carrying a white garment bag. This is your wedding dress, Sungmin said. There is a room through that door where you can change. The ceremony begins in 1 hour. Ayera stood up on shaky legs. This was really happening. In 1 hour, she would be married to this powerful, dangerous, devastatingly handsome man who was more than twice her age. As if reading her mind, Sungmin walked around the desk one more time. He stood close enough that she could feel the heat coming off his body. I know this is not what you wanted for your life, he said quietly. But I promise you this, Ayera. I will never betray you. I will never abandon you. And I will make sure you never regret becoming mine. The way he said mine made something deep in her belly tighten, with a feeling she did not understand. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black box. When he opened it, Ayera gasped. Inside was the most beautiful ring she had ever seen. A huge diamond surrounded by smaller stones that sparkled like stars. Sungmin took her left hand and slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been made just for her. 1 hour, he said again. Then he turned and walked out of the office, leaving her standing there with a wedding dress in one hand and her entire future changed forever. The mansion sat in a quiet neighborhood far from the busy streets of downtown Chicago. As the car pulled through the iron gates, Ayera pressed her face against the window and stared. The house looked like something from a movie. 3 stories tall, made of gray stone, with tall windows that glowed with warm light. Gardens stretched out on both sides, perfectly maintained even though it was early spring. Welcome home, Mrs. Park, the driver said as he opened her door. Mrs. Park. That was her name now. She was married. The ceremony had happened so fast, just like Sung-min promised. The judge had read words from a book. She had said, "I do," in a shaky voice, and then Sung-min had kissed her. Just a brief press of his lips against hers, but it had felt like lightning shooting through her body. Then he had signed papers, she had signed papers, and suddenly, her old life was gone. Sung-min got out of the car after her, his hand settling on the small of her back as he guided her toward the front door. Even through the fabric of her dress, his touch felt hot. She was still wearing the white dress from the ceremony, because there had been no time to change. The inside of the mansion was even more incredible than the outside. The entrance hall had a ceiling so high she had to bend her neck back to see it. A huge chandelier hung down, dripping with crystals that caught the light. The floors were polished wood that reflected everything like a mirror. Paintings covered the walls, and a wide staircase curved up to the second floor. "I will show you to our bedroom," Sung-min said, his voice echoing slightly in the big space. "Our bedroom." Those two words made Ayera's stomach twist with nervousness. She followed him up the stairs, her legs feeling weak. The second-floor hallway seemed to stretch forever, with doors on both sides. Sung-min stopped at the door at the very end and pushed it open. The bedroom was bigger than her entire house back in Tanzania. A massive bed sat in the middle, covered with dark blue silk sheets. More windows showed the gardens below, and the Chicago skyline in the distance. There was a sitting area with a couch and chairs, a desk, and 2 doors that she guessed led to a bathroom and closet. "Your clothes are already here," Sung-min said, gesturing to one of the doors. "I had my people shop for you based on your size. If anything does not fit or you do not like it, tell me, and I will have it replaced." Ayera walked to the closet door and opened it. Inside was a room almost as big as the bedroom, filled with racks of clothes. Dresses, pants, shirts, shoes lined up on shelves. Everything looked expensive and new, with tags still attached. "I cannot accept all this," she said quietly. "It is too much." She heard Sung-min walk up behind her. His presence felt like heat at her back. "You are my wife now. You will dress the part. I have a reputation to maintain, and that includes how you present yourself." Ayera turned around to face him and found herself trapped between his body and the closet doorway. He was so close she could see the individual buttons on his shirt, could smell that cologne that made her dizzy. "Is that all I am to you? A doll to dress up and show off?" she asked. Sung-min's jaw tightened. For a moment she thought he might get angry, but instead he reached out and touched her cheek, his thumb brushing across her skin. "Go to sleep, Ayera. It has been a long day for you. We will talk more tomorrow." Then he turned and walked out of the bedroom, closing the door behind him with a soft click. Ayera stood there for a long moment, confused. This was their wedding night. Where was he going? Despite her fear and anger about this whole situation, part of her had expected him to demand his rights as a husband tonight, but instead he had just left. She changed into one of the silk nightgowns she found in a drawer, washed her face in the bathroom that was all white marble and gold fixtures, and climbed into the huge bed. The sheets felt like water against her skin. She lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, wondering what her mother and sisters were doing right now. Did they know she had gotten married today? Did they know their lives had been saved by her sacrifice? Sleep took a long time to come. The next morning, Ayera woke up to sunlight streaming through the windows. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back and she sat up quickly, looking around the room. The other side of the bed was untouched. Sung-min had not come to bed at all. She got up and explored the bedroom more carefully in the daylight. That was when she noticed the couch in the sitting area had a blanket folded on it and a pillow. He had slept there, just feet away from the bed, but not in it with her. A soft knock on the door made her jump. Before she could answer, a woman in a black uniform came in carrying a tray. "Good morning, Mrs. Park. I am Sun-hee, the housekeeper. Mr. Park asked me to bring you breakfast." The woman set the tray on a small table by the window. Ayera could see scrambled eggs, toast, fruit, and a pot of tea. "Where is my husband?" Ayera asked. "He left for work very early, around 5 in the morning. He said to tell you to make yourself comfortable in the house. He will return this evening." After Sun-hee left, Ayera ate the breakfast slowly, looking out the window at the gardens. Then she got dressed in a simple pair of jeans and a sweater from the closet and decided to explore her new prison. The mansion was like a maze. She found a library with walls covered in books from floor to ceiling, a dining room with a table long enough to seat 20 people, a kitchen that was all stainless steel and looked like something from a restaurant, a gym with more exercise machines than she could count, a movie theater with actual theater seats, an indoor pool with steam rising from the heated water. But every time she tried to go outside, she found a man in a black suit standing by the door. They were polite, but firm. Mrs. Park was not allowed to leave the grounds without an escort, they said. For her own safety, they said. Days passed like this. Ayera would wake up alone, eat breakfast alone, explore the house alone, eat lunch alone, read in the library alone, eat dinner alone. Sometimes she would hear Sung-min come home late at night, hear him move around in the bedroom, then hear him settle on the couch. But he never tried to talk to her or touch her. It was like being married to a ghost. A week after the wedding, Ayera could not take it anymore. She had found a beautiful garden behind the house, hidden by tall hedges. There was a stone bench there under a tree that was just starting to grow new leaves. She sat there in the evening air and let the tears come. She cried for her old life, for her freedom, for the dreams she had of going to graduate school and becoming a teacher, for the boy back home who had liked her and brought her flowers, for everything she had lost. She cried so hard she did not hear footsteps on the path. "Ayera!" She looked up through her tears and saw Sung-min standing there. He had taken off his suit jacket and tie, and his white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar. He looked tired with shadows under his eyes. "I am sorry," she said quickly, wiping at her face. "I will go inside." But when she tried to stand up, he sat down beside her on the bench. The stone was small enough that their legs touched. Ayera felt that now familiar heat spread through her body at the contact. "Why are you crying?" he asked quietly. "Why do you think?" The words came out harsher than she meant. "I am trapped here like a bird in a cage. You ignore me all day and all night. I have no friends, no family, no purpose. I just exist in this beautiful prison you have built." Sung-min was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that surprised her. He took her hand in his fingers wrapping around hers. "I am giving you time to adjust," he said. "This is not your fault. You did not choose this life. I thought if I stayed away, if I gave you space, it would be easier for you." "Easier?" Ayera laughed, but it sounded broken. "It is lonelier. At least if you talk to me, I would feel like a person instead of a piece of furniture." She felt his hand tighten on hers. When she turned to look at him, she found him staring at her with an expression she could not read. "You want me to talk to you?" he asked. "Yes. Tell me about yourself. Tell me why you do what you do. Tell me anything." I am your wife, even if I did not choose it. We are stuck with each other. We might as well try to make it bearable." Sung-min looked away, staring at the darkening sky. "I came to America when I was 20 years old, with nothing but the clothes on my back and $50 in my pocket. My father had kicked me out because I refused to follow his rules. I lived on the streets for 2 months, sleeping in alleys, stealing food to survive." Ayera found herself leaning closer, fascinated despite herself. "One day I tried to steal from the wrong person, a man named Mr. Choi, who ran a small import business. Instead of calling the police, he gave me a job. He taught me how the business worked, how to negotiate, how to read people. When he died 5 years later, he left the business to me." "That does not sound like the work of a criminal," Ayera said softly. Sung-min's lips curved into a bitter smile. "Mr. Choi's import business was not exactly legal. We brought in things from Korea that were not supposed to come into America. But I was good at it. Very good. I expanded, made connections, earned respect and fear, in equal measure. Now I control most of the underground operations in Chicago. Import, export, protection, gambling. If it is illegal and profitable, I probably have my hands in it." "Do you hurt people?" Ayera asked, not sure she wanted to know the answer. "I do what is necessary to protect what is mine," Sung-min said. "I am not a good man, Ayera. I told you that. But I follow a code. I do not hurt innocents. I do not traffic in human lives. I do not deal in drugs that destroy families. There are lines even I will not cross." They sat there in the growing darkness, hands still linked, and for the first time since arriving in Chicago, Ayera did not feel completely alone. "Tell me about Tanzania," Sung-min said. "Tell me about your home." So she did. She told him about the warm sun and the red earth, about helping her mother cook ugali and vegetables, about her sister's laughter and her father's workshop, where he made furniture. She told him about her friends from school and the teacher who had inspired her to want to teach others. Sung-min listened without interrupting, his thumb making small circles on the back of her hand. When she finally ran out of words, the stars were out above them. "I cannot give you your old life back," Sung-min said, "but I can try to make this new life better. Starting tomorrow, you can go anywhere you want in the city. My men will accompany you for safety. But you are not a prisoner. You can shop, see museums, do whatever makes you happy. And I will try to come home earlier so we can have dinner together." "Why?" Ayera asked. "Why do you suddenly care?" Sung-min turned to face her fully, and in the dim light from the house, his eyes looked softer than she had ever seen them. "Because you are right. We are stuck with each other, and I find that I do not like seeing you cry." He stood up and held out his hand. Ayera took it and let him pull her to her feet. They walked back to the house together, and that night, for the first time, they had a real conversation over dinner. Small things, careful things, but it was a start. When bedtime came, Sung-min still slept on the couch, but Ayera found she minded less because now she understood he was trying to be respectful in his own way. This strange, dangerous man who controlled the Chicago underworld was trying to be kind to the girl he had bought as a wife. It was not love, not even close, but maybe, just maybe, it could become something more than a business arrangement. That thought kept her warm as she drifted off to sleep. 3 weeks after their wedding, Ayera woke up to the smell of coffee and something sweet. She opened her eyes and found Sung-min sitting in one of the chairs by the window, fully dressed in his work clothes, holding a cup and reading something on his phone. "You are awake," he said, looking up. Good. Get dressed. I am taking you somewhere today. But do you not have work? Ayera asked, sitting up and pushing her hair out of her face. I am the boss. I can take a day off when I want. He stood up and walked to the door. Wear something comfortable. We will be walking. An hour later, they were strolling down Michigan Avenue, with two of Sung Min's men following at a respectful distance. The spring morning was beautiful, with flowers blooming in planters along the street, and people everywhere enjoying the sunshine. Sung Min took her to breakfast at a small Korean restaurant tucked between two bigger buildings. The owner greeted him warmly, calling him by name, and led them to a private booth in the back. You come here often? Ayera asked, looking at the menu written in both Korean and English. This is my favorite place in the city, Sung Min admitted. The owner, Mrs. Kim, knew me when I first came to Chicago. She would sneak me food when I was homeless. Now I make sure no one bothers her business. He ordered for both of them, and soon the table was covered with small dishes of food. Kimchi, rice, soup, grilled meat, and things Ayera could not identify, but smelled amazing. Try this, Sung Min said, picking up a piece of meat with his chopsticks and holding it out to her. Ayera leaned forward and let him feed her. The meat was tender and flavorful, with a slightly sweet glaze. She closed her eyes and made a sound of appreciation. When she opened her eyes, she found Sung Min staring at her with an expression that made her skin feel hot. His gaze was fixed on her lips, and she saw him swallow hard. Good? He asked, his voice rougher than usual. Very good, she whispered. The moment stretched between them, charged with something electric. Then Sung Min cleared his throat and looked away, picking up his own chopsticks. They ate slowly, and Sung Min taught her Korean words for each dish. She taught him Swahili words in return, laughing when he struggled with the pronunciation. It felt easy and natural, like they were just a normal couple enjoying breakfast together. After eating, Sung Min took her to the Art Institute of Chicago. They wandered through galleries filled with paintings and sculptures. Ayera was drawn to the African art section, touching the glass cases that held masks and jewelry from various tribes. My grandmother had a necklace like this, she said softly, pointing at a beaded collar. She would wear it on special occasions and tell us stories about our ancestors. Sung Min stood close beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. Do you miss them very much? Your family? Every day, Ayera admitted. But I spoke to my mother on the phone yesterday. She said my father is already working again, and my sisters are back in school. Knowing they're safe makes this easier. You are very brave, Sung Min said quietly. Not many people would sacrifice themselves for their family the way you did. Ayera looked up at him. You said you left Korea when your father kicked you out. Do you ever miss your family? Something dark crossed Sung Min's face. My father and I have not spoken in over 20 years. As far as I know, he thinks I am dead. That is how I prefer it. Before Ayera could ask more, Sung Min took her hand and led her to another gallery. His hand was warm and strong around hers, and he did not let go even when they stopped to look at paintings. That night, they had dinner together at the mansion. Sun-hee had prepared a mix of Korean and African dishes, trying to make Ayera feel more at home. After dinner, instead of disappearing to his study like he usually did, Sung Min suggested they watch a movie. They settled on the huge couch in the movie theater room, and Sung Min put on an action film. Ayera found herself leaning against his shoulder as the movie played, and his arm came around her naturally, holding her close. When the movie ended, they walked upstairs together. At the bedroom door, they both hesitated. Thank you for today, Ayera said softly. It was the best day I have had since coming to Chicago. Sung-min reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering on her cheek. We should do it more often. His hand slid down to cup her jaw, and Ayera's breath caught. She could see the question in his eyes, the wanting. Her heart pounded as he leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She did not pull away. His lips touched hers softly at first, testing. Then, when she did not resist, the kiss deepened. His other hand came up to frame her face, and Ayera found her hands gripping the front of his shirt. The kiss was nothing like the brief peck at their wedding. This was heat and hunger, and something that made her whole body feel like it was on fire. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sung-min pressed his forehead against hers. I want you, he said roughly, but only if you want this too. Tell me to stop and I will. Ayera looked into his eyes and saw the truth there. He would stop if she asked. This powerful, dangerous man who could have anything he wanted was giving her the choice. I do not want you to stop, she whispered. Something in Sung-min's eyes blazed hot. He picked her up easily, making her gasp, and carried her to the bed. He laid her down gently on the silk sheets and followed her down, his body covering hers. I will be gentle, he promised, his lips moving to her neck. Tell me if anything hurts or if you want to stop. His hands moved over her body, learning every curve through her clothes. When he started unbuttoning her shirt, his fingers shook slightly, and Ayera realized he was nervous too. This big, tough man was nervous about being with her. That realization made her relax. She reached up and helped him with the buttons, then started working on his shirt too. Soon they were skin to skin, and Ayera could feel the hard muscles of his chest, the scars he had told her about, the heat of him. He took his time with her, kissing every inch of skin he revealed, murmuring words in Korean that she did not understand, but that sounded beautiful. When they finally came together, there was a moment of pain that made her gasp. But he held still, kissing her face and whispering soothing words until her body adjusted. Then he started moving, and the pain transformed into something else entirely. Pleasure built inside her like a wave, higher and higher, until she cried out and clung to his shoulders. He followed her over the edge moments later, her name on his lips. Afterwards they lay tangled together, sweaty and breathing hard. Sung-min pulled the covers over them and gathered her close, her head on his chest. Are you okay? He asked softly, his hand stroking her hair. Yes, Ayera said, and realized it was true. She was more than okay. For the first time since this whole thing started, she felt like maybe everything would be all right. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, and when Ayera woke in the morning, she was still in his arms. The weeks that followed were like a dream, Wang. Sung-min started coming home earlier from work, eager to spend time with her. They cooked dinner together, with him teaching her Korean recipes and her teaching him Tanzanian ones. They watched movies and took walks in the garden and talked about everything and nothing. And at night, they lost themselves in each other. Each time was different. Sometimes it was slow and tender, with him worshipping her body like she was something precious. Other times it was urgent and fierce, with both of them too desperate to take their time. Ayera learned what made him gasp, where to touch him to drive him crazy. He learned every sensitive spot on her body, every sound she made when she was close to the edge. One rainy afternoon, Ayera was in the library looking for a book when Sung-min came home early. She heard his footsteps and turned to greet him, but the words died in her throat at the look on his face. He crossed the room in 3 long strides, pulling her into his arms and kissing her hard. His hands were already working at her clothes, urgent and impatient. "I could not stop thinking about you," he said against her lips. "I was in a meeting, and all I could think about was coming home to you." He lifted her onto the desk, scattering papers and books. Ayira wrapped her legs around his waist and pulled him closer, just as desperate as he was. They came together, right there in the library, fast and intense, swallowing each other's cries. Later, lying on the couch with her head on his chest and a blanket thrown over them, Sungmin said something that made Ayira's heart skip. "I am falling in love with you." Ayira lifted her head to look at him. His face was serious, vulnerable in a way she had never seen before. "I know I should not," he continued. "This was supposed to be just business, but somewhere between showing you Chicago and teaching you Korean words and making love to you every night, I fell. I am in love with you, Ayira. Completely. Hopelessly." Tears filled Ayira's eyes, but they were happy tears. "I love you too," she whispered. "I tried not to, but I do. I love you so much it scares me." He pulled her up for a kiss that was sweet and gentle, full of promise. "Do not be scared. I will spend the rest of my life making you happy. I swear it." That night they made love slowly, carefully, looking into each other's eyes and whispering their feelings. It was perfect. It was everything. Ayira fell asleep thinking that maybe arranged marriages could have happy endings after all. Maybe love could grow even in the strangest circumstances. She had no idea that everything was about to change. The shopping district in downtown Chicago was crowded with people enjoying the warm afternoon. Ayira walked between the stores with two of Sungmin's men, following at a distance. She had gotten used to always having bodyguards around, and they were actually pretty nice once you got to know them. Young Ho and Dae-jung had been with her for weeks now, and they sometimes made jokes that made her laugh. She was looking at dresses in a boutique window when she felt it, that prickly feeling on the back of her neck that meant someone was watching her. She turned around quickly but saw only normal people walking by with shopping bags and coffee cups. "Mrs. Park, is something wrong?" Young Ho asked, stepping closer. "I thought I felt someone watching me," Ayira said, shaking her head. "I am probably just being silly." But Young Ho and Dae-jung immediately went on alert, their hands moving to their waists, where Ayira knew they kept guns hidden under their jackets. They scanned the crowd with professional eyes. "We should go back to the car," Dae-jung said firmly. "Now!" They started walking quickly toward where the car was parked 2 blocks away. Ayira's heart was pounding. Maybe she had not been imagining things after all. They were halfway down the block when everything happened at once. A black van screeched to a stop beside them. The side door flew open, and 3 men jumped out, all wearing masks and holding guns. Young Ho shoved Ayira behind him and pulled out his own gun, but one of the masked men shot him in the leg. He went down with a cry of pain. Dae-jung was already shooting back, and people on the street were screaming and running. One of the masked men grabbed Ayira's arm and tried to pull her toward the van. She screamed and fought, kicking and scratching at him. "The boss wants you alive," the man growled. "Stop fighting or we will hurt you worse." Suddenly there was a loud bang, and the man holding her jerked backward, a red stain spreading across his chest. Dae-jung had shot him. But then another masked man shot Dae-jung in the shoulder, and he stumbled. Ayira ran. She did not know where she was going, just away from the van and the guns and the violence. Her feet pounded on the sidewalk as she dodged around screaming people. Behind her she could hear the masked men chasing. She turned a corner and ran straight into someone. Strong hands caught her shoulders and she looked up ready to scream. It was Sung Min. His face was a mask of fury, like nothing she had ever seen. Behind him were at least 10 more men in black suits, all armed. Sung Min pushed Ayera behind him and pulled out a gun that looked huge and deadly. "Stay behind me," he ordered, his voice cold as ice. The masked men came around the corner and skidded to a stop when they saw Sung Min and his army. For a second, nobody moved. Then the shooting started. Ayera crouched down with her hands over her ears, the sound of gunfire echoing off the buildings. It was over in less than a minute. All 3 masked men were on the ground, not moving. Sung Min's men checked them for identification, while Sung Min turned and pulled Ayera into his arms. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you? Tell me right now if you're hurt." His hands ran over her body, checking for injuries. "I am okay," Ayera said, her voice shaking. "But Young Ho and Daijung, they were shot. Already being taken to the hospital," Sung Min said. "They will be fine. You are what matters right now." He lifted her into his arms like she weighed nothing and carried her to his car. During the ride back to the mansion, he held her on his lap, his arms wrapped around her so tight she could barely breathe. She could feel him shaking. Once they were home, Sung Min took her straight to their bedroom. He checked her over again, looking for any injuries she might have missed in the shock. His hands were gentle but thorough. "I am okay, I promise," Ayera said. "Just scared." Sung Min sat down on the edge of the bed and pulled her between his knees, his hands on her hips. He pressed his forehead against her stomach and just breathed for a long moment. "I almost lost you," he said, his voice rough. "When Young Ho called and said you were being attacked, I have never been so terrified in my entire life." Ayera ran her fingers through his hair. "Who were those men? Why did they want to take me?" Sung Min looked up at her, and she saw something in his eyes that she had not seen before. Fear. Real, genuine fear. "They were from a rival organization. Russians who want to take over my territory. They thought taking you would force me to back down and give them what they want." "Will you?" Ayera asked quietly. "Will you give them what they want to keep me safe?" Sung Min stood up, his hands framing her face. "I will burn this entire city to the ground before I let anyone hurt you. But that is not what they will get. What they will get is war." He started pacing the room like a caged animal. "I need to tell you everything, Ayera. The complete truth about who I am and what I do. You deserve to know exactly what being my wife means." So he told her. He explained how his organization worked, the network of businesses, both legal and illegal, that he controlled. The money he made from bringing in goods that customs would never approve. The protection money he collected from businesses who wanted his men to keep them safe from other criminals. The gambling operations and the money lending and all the gray areas in between. He told her about the enemies he had made over the years, the other organizations who wanted what he had, the corrupt police who he paid to look the other way, the politicians who owed him favors. "Your father came to me 6 months ago," Sung Min said, stopping his pacing to look at her. "He had gambling debts to a very dangerous Russian named Viktor Sokolov, the same man who tried to take you today. Your father offered me something I needed, business connections in Tanzania, specifically the port city of Dar es Salaam. I could use those connections to expand my import operations. In exchange, I would pay his debts and protect his family." "And you wanted me as part of the deal?" Ayera said. "Yes," Sung Min admitted. "But that was before I knew you. before I fell in love with you. Now everything is different. Victor knows that hurting you is the best way to hurt me. And he is right. I would give up everything for you." He came to sit beside her on the bed, taking her hands in his. His thumbs rubbed circles on her palms. "I want you to understand something, Ayera. I am not a good man. I have done terrible things to protect what is mine. I have hurt people, ordered deaths, destroyed lives. There is blood on my hands that will never wash clean." Ayera looked at their joined hands, his hands that had killed people, hands that had also held her so gently, touched her with such tenderness, made her feel safe and loved. "Do you want to leave me?" Sungmin asked quietly. "If you want to go, I will arrange it. I will send you somewhere safe where Victor and people like him can never find you. You can have a new life, a fresh start away from all this darkness." Ayera thought about it, really thought about it. She could leave, go somewhere far away, start over, be free. But she would be free without him, without his laugh when she taught him a new Swahili word, without his arms around her at night, without the way he looked at her like she was the most precious thing in his world. "I am not leaving you," she said firmly. "I am scared, yes. What happened today was terrifying. But I love you, Sungmin, and I am not going to abandon you just because your life is dangerous. We are in this together." The relief on his face was so strong it almost broke her heart. He pulled her into his arms and held her tight, his face buried in her neck. "I do not deserve you," he whispered, "but I am too selfish to let you go." That night they made love with an intensity that bordered on desperate. It was like they were trying to prove to each other that they were alive, that they were together, that nothing could tear them apart. Sungmin was rougher than usual, his grip leaving marks on her hips. But Ayera welcomed it. She scratched her nails down his back and bit his shoulder, wanting to mark him too. Afterwards he pulled her close and ran his hands over her body like he was memorizing every curve. "I need to teach you how to protect yourself," he said. "Starting tomorrow you will learn to shoot a gun. You will learn basic self-defense. You will never be helpless again." "Okay," Ayera agreed. He rolled on top of her again, his eyes dark with need. "I am not done with you yet." "Good," she whispered, pulling him down for another kiss. They made love twice more that night, each time more intense than the last. Sungmin seemed unable to get enough of her, like he was trying to chase away the fear of what might have happened. Ayera understood because she felt the same way. Every touch reminded her that she was alive, that they were together, that love was worth fighting for. In the early morning hours, she lay awake in his arms and made a decision. She was not going to be a helpless victim anymore. If being Sungmin's wife meant being part of this dangerous world, then she would learn to survive in it. She would become strong enough to stand beside him, not hide behind him. "What are you thinking about?" Sungmin asked sleepily, his hand stroking her hair. "I am thinking that Victor Sokolov picked the wrong woman to mess with," Ayera said. "I am thinking that I am going to make him regret ever trying to hurt us." Sungmin's chest rumbled with a low laugh. He rolled her over and kissed her hard. "That is my fierce wife," he said against her lips. "Together, we are unstoppable." Ayera kissed him back and let him pull her close again. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tomorrow she would start learning how to fight back. But tonight, she just wanted to feel alive in her husband's arms. The training room in the basement of the mansion was nothing like Ayera expected. It looked like a professional gym, with mats on the floor, punching bags hanging from the ceiling, and racks of weapons along one wall. Sungmin stood in the center wearing black pants and a tight black shirt that showed off every muscle. "First lesson," he said, handing her a gun. "This is a Glock 19, 9mm, light enough for you to handle easily but powerful enough to stop an attacker." Ayera took the gun carefully. It was heavier than she expected, cold and deadly in her hands. For the next 2 weeks, Sungmin trained her every morning how to hold the gun properly, how to aim, how to breathe and squeeze the trigger instead of pulling it. By the end of the first week, she could hit the target consistently. By the end of the second week, she could hit the center almost every time. He also taught her hand-to-hand combat, how to break someone's grip on her wrist, where to hit to cause maximum pain, how to use an attacker's size against them. They practiced together, with Sungmin being careful not to hurt her, but not being gentle either. "In a real fight, no one will be gentle," he said. "You need to be ready for anything." One afternoon, they were sparring on the mats when Ayera managed to flip him. He landed on his back with a surprised grunt, and she ended up on top of him, straddling his waist. They were both breathing hard and covered in sweat. "Did I hurt you?" she asked, concerned. Sungmin's hands came to rest on her hips, and she felt him getting hard beneath her. His eyes darkened with that look she had come to know very well. "The only thing you hurt is my pride," he said, his voice rough. "And seeing you all sweaty and fierce is very attractive." Ayera leaned down and kissed him, and soon their training session turned into something else entirely. They made love right there on the training mats, urgent and heated, their sweat-slicked bodies moving together. But the peace did not last long. 3 weeks after the attempted kidnapping, Sungmin came home with a face like thunder. He went straight to his study and slammed the door. Ayera followed and opened it without knocking. "What happened?" she asked. Sungmin was pouring himself a drink with hands that shook slightly. "Victor has made his move. He has allied himself with 2 other organizations. Together they have enough power to challenge me. They are demanding I give up half my territory and pay them $20 million, or they will start a war." "What are you going to do?" Sungmin downed his drink in one gulp. "There is a meeting tomorrow night. All the heads of the major organizations will be there. They want me to agree to Victor's terms in front of everyone. If I refuse, they will see it as me choosing war over peace, and some of my own allies might turn against me." Ayera walked over and took the glass from his hand, setting it down. She took his face in her hands and made him look at her. "Then we will go to the meeting together," she said. "We will show them that you are not afraid, and that I stand with you." "Ayera, no. These men are dangerous. I cannot bring you into a room full of people who want to hurt you." "I am your wife," Ayera said firmly. "Where you go, I go. Besides, I am not helpless anymore. You taught me how to fight. Let me stand beside you." Sungmin searched her face, then pulled her into a tight hug. "You are the bravest person I know." The next night, Ayera dressed carefully in a black dress that was elegant but not too revealing. She wore the diamond ring Sungmin had given her on their wedding day, and she strapped the small gun he had given her to her thigh under the dress. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. The scared 19-year-old girl who had arrived in Chicago was gone. In her place was a woman who knew what she wanted and was not afraid to fight for it. The meeting was held in a warehouse on the south side of the city. When Sungmin's car pulled up, there were already a dozen other expensive cars parked outside. Men in suits stood guard at every entrance. Sungmin helped Ayera out of the car, and she saw him scan the area with practiced eyes, looking for threats. His hand settled on the small of her back as they walked toward the entrance. Inside, the warehouse had been set up with a long table and chairs. About 20 men sat around it, all of them looking powerful and dangerous. At the far end sat Viktor Sokolov, a big man with blonde hair and cold blue eyes. When he saw Ayera, he smiled in a way that made her skin crawl. "Ah, Sung Min brings his pretty little wife," Viktor said in accented English. "How sweet. She's even more beautiful than the photos." Sung Min's hand tightened on Ayera's back, but his face remained calm. They sat down at the opposite end of the table. "Let us begin," said an older Asian man who seemed to be in charge of the meeting. "Viktor has made his terms clear. Sung Min, what is your answer?" Sung Min leaned back in his chair, looking relaxed even though Ayera could feel the tension radiating from his body. "My answer is no," he said clearly. "I will not give up territory that I have spent years building. I will not pay Viktor a single dollar. And if he wants war, then war is what he will get." The room erupted in voices. Some men shouted their support for Sung Min. Others argued that he was being foolish, that Viktor's alliance was too strong to fight. Viktor stood up, slamming his hand on the table. "You are making a mistake, Park. I have more men, more weapons, more money. You cannot win this fight, and when you lose, I will take everything from you. Your business, your power, and your pretty wife." That was when Ayera stood up. Every eye in the room turned to her. "You will not touch him," she said, her voice steady and strong. "And you will not touch me. I know what you are thinking. You think I am just some weak girl who can be used to hurt my husband. But you are wrong." She walked around the table toward Viktor, ignoring Sung Min's sharp intake of breath behind her. When she reached Viktor, she looked up at him without fear. "You tried to kidnap me once already and failed. My husband's men died protecting me, and I will honor their sacrifice by being strong. I am not afraid of you, Viktor Sokolov, and neither is my husband." Viktor's face turned red with anger. He reached out like he was going to grab her, but Ayera was faster. She pulled the gun from her thigh holster and pressed it against his chest in one smooth motion, just like Sung Min had taught her. "Touch me and see what happens," she said quietly. The room went completely silent. Then Sung Min started laughing. It was a genuine laugh, full of pride and admiration. He stood up and walked over to stand beside Ayera. "You see, Viktor, my wife has more courage than all of you combined, and that is why you will lose, because I fight for something real. I fight for love. What do you fight for? Money? Power? Those things mean nothing without someone to share them with." One by one, the men at the table started speaking up. The ones who had been on the fence were swayed by what they had seen. A young woman standing up to the biggest threat in the room showed strength they could respect. Several of Viktor's potential allies quietly said they would remain neutral in any conflict. By the end of the meeting, Viktor's alliance had crumbled. He stormed out of the warehouse with only 2 supporters left. In the car on the way home, Sung Min pulled Ayera onto his lap and kissed her until they were both breathless. "That was the most incredible thing I have ever seen," he said against her lips. "You were magnificent." "I meant what I said," Ayera told him. "I am not afraid anymore. We are in this together, and we will win together." That night, their lovemaking was different. It was not desperate or scared like after the attack. It was powerful and sure, a celebration of their strength together. Sung Min worshipped her body with his hands and mouth, telling her over and over how proud he was, how much he loved her, how she was his equal in every way. When they finally came together, it felt like more than just physical pleasure. It felt like 2 souls recognizing that they were stronger together than apart. Over the next few weeks, Viktor tried several more attacks. But each time Sung Min and Ayera were ready. She had proven herself to his organization, and now his men respected her and protected her, not just because she was the boss's wife, but because she had earned it. Ayera also used her connections to help. She called her father and asked him to use his business contacts in Tanzania to cut off some of Victor's supply lines. She reached out to other wives in Sung Min's world and built alliances of her own. Slowly but surely, they pushed Victor back. His power diminished while Sung Min's grew stronger, all because he had something Victor would never have. True partnership, true love. One night, after a particularly successful business meeting, Sung Min came home early and found Ayera in the library reading. He knelt down beside her chair and took her hand. "I need to tell you something," he said seriously. Ayera's heart skipped. "What is it?" "When I first brought you here, I thought I was getting a beautiful trophy wife who would obey me and make me look good. But you have become so much more than that. You are my partner, my equal, my strength. I cannot imagine running this empire without you by my side." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside was a second ring, a band covered in diamonds that sparkled in the light. "We are already married, but I want to ask you properly this time. Ayera, will you choose to stay with me? Not because you have to, but because you want to. Will you be my wife, my partner, my love, for the rest of our lives?" Ayera felt tears rolling down her cheeks. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. He slid the new ring onto her finger beside the first one, then pulled her down onto the floor with him. They made love, right there on the library carpet, slow and sweet and full of promise. And for the first time since coming to Chicago, Ayera felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. 6 months after the confrontation with Victor, Ayera woke up feeling sick. She barely made it to the bathroom before throwing up. Sung Min was beside her immediately, holding her hair back and rubbing her back. "This is the 3rd morning in a row," he said, concern in his voice. "We are going to the doctor today." 3 hours later, they sat in a private medical office while a doctor smiled at them. "Congratulations, Mrs. Park. You are 8 weeks pregnant." Ayera's hand flew to her stomach. A baby. She was going to have a baby. Sung Min's baby. She turned to look at her husband and found him staring at her with an expression of pure wonder. His hand covered hers on her still flat belly. "We are having a baby," he said, like he could not quite believe it. The doctor left them alone for a moment, and Sung Min pulled Ayera into his arms, holding her like she was made of glass. "I am going to be a father," he whispered. "I never thought I would have this. A family. A real family." "Are you happy?" Ayera asked, suddenly nervous. Sung Min pulled back to look at her, and she saw tears in his eyes. "Happy does not even begin to describe it. You have given me everything, Ayera. Purpose, love, and now a child. I am the luckiest man alive." He kissed her gently, his hand never leaving her stomach. That night, he made love to her with such tenderness it brought tears to her eyes. He kissed her belly over and over, whispering promises to the baby growing inside her. "I will protect you both with my life," he said. "Nothing will ever hurt you. I swear it." The next few months were busy. Victor had finally been taken down by a joint operation between Sung Min's organization and some federal agents who wanted him for other crimes. With Victor gone, Sung Min's position was stronger than ever. But true to his word to Ayera, he started making changes. He stepped back from the most dangerous and illegal parts of his business. He invested in legitimate companies, using his money to build shopping centers and restaurants and import businesses that operated completely within the law. I want our child to be proud of what I do, he explained to Aira one night as they lay in bed, his hand on her growing belly. I want to leave behind an empire that is built on business, not blood. It was not easy, and there were people in his organization who did not like the changes. But Sung-min was firm, and Aira stood beside him every step of the way. Together they transformed his empire from something dark and hidden into something that could operate in the light. Aira's mother arrived from Tanzania when she was 6 months pregnant. The reunion was full of tears and laughter. Her mother hugged her for a long time, then pulled back to look at her. "You have changed, my daughter," she said in Swahili. "You are stronger now. I can see it in your eyes." "America changed me, Mama," Aira said. "And Sung-min changed me. He taught me that I could be strong." Her mother stayed for 2 months, and Sung-min made sure she was comfortable in the mansion. He even learned some Swahili phrases to make her feel welcome, which made both women laugh at his pronunciation. When Aira was 7 months pregnant, they decided to renew their vows. But this time, it would be a real wedding, not a business transaction in an office. The ceremony took place in the mansion's garden on a beautiful summer evening. Fairy lights hung from the trees, and flowers were everywhere. Only close friends and family attended. Aira's mother was there, crying happy tears. Sun-hee and the other household staff who had become like family. Sung-min's most trusted men and their wives. Aira wore a white dress that flowed over her pregnant belly. Sung-min wore a traditional Korean hanbok, honoring his heritage. When he saw her walking toward him, his face showed such love that everyone watching felt it. This time, when they said their vows, the words meant something different. They were not promises made under force. They were promises made by 2 people who had chosen each other, who had fought for each other, who loved each other completely. "I promise to stand beside you in darkness and in light," Sung-min said, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise to love you when you are strong and when you are weak. I promise to be the father our child deserves and the husband you deserve. You saved me, Aira. You took a cold, hard man and taught him how to love. I am yours, completely and forever." Aira was crying as she said her own vows. "I promise to be your partner, your equal, your strength when you need it. I promise to love the man you are and the man you are becoming. You gave me a home when I had none. You gave me purpose when I was lost. You gave me love when I thought I would never find it. I choose you, Sung-min, today and every day, for the rest of my life." When they kissed, everyone cheered, and this time the kiss was not a brief press of lips. It was deep and passionate, a promise of all the nights to come. The celebration lasted long into the evening. There was music and dancing and food from both Korea and Tanzania. Sung-min danced with Aira carefully, his hand protective on her belly, and whispered in her ear all the things he planned to do to her, later when they were alone. True to his word, that night he made love to her, slowly and carefully, mindful of her pregnant body. His hands and mouth worshipped every curve, every change that pregnancy had brought. He told her she was beautiful, that she was perfect, that carrying his child made her even more precious to him. 3 weeks later, on a rainy Tuesday morning, Aira's water broke. Sung-min turned into a nervous mess, rushing around the mansion and yelling orders at everyone. Aira had to calm him down and remind him to breathe. The labor was long and hard, but Sung-min never left her side. He held her hand through every contraction, whispered encouragement when she wanted to give up, and cried when he heard their baby's first cry. It was a girl, perfect and tiny, with a head full of black hair and her father's dark eyes. "She is beautiful," Sungmin said, his voice full of awe as he held his daughter for the first time. "Just like her mother." They named her Zuri Nya Park, Zuri meaning beautiful in Swahili, and Nya meaning purpose in Korean, a perfect combination of both their cultures. Watching Sungmin with their daughter made Ayira fall in love with him all over again. This dangerous, powerful man turned into complete mush when holding his little girl. He would spend hours just staring at her, memorizing every tiny feature. He changed diapers without complaint, got up for midnight feedings, and sang Korean lullabies in his deep voice. When Zuri was 3 months old, they moved to a new house. It was still in Chicago, but in a quieter neighborhood, with a big yard where children could play safely. The house was beautiful, but not as massive as the mansion. It felt like a real home, not a fortress. Sungmin's business continued to grow, now almost completely legitimate. He had become a respected businessman in Chicago, known for his charitable donations and community involvement. Only a few people knew about his past, and they kept that secret well. One evening, when Zuri was 6 months old and sleeping peacefully in her nursery, Ayira and Sungmin sat together on their back porch, watching the sunset. His arm was around her shoulders and she was curled into his side. "Do you ever regret it?" Sungmin asked quietly. "Marrying me, giving up your freedom." Ayira turned to look at him. "I gave up one kind of freedom and gained another. I am free to love you without holding back. I am free to be strong and powerful. I am free to build a life that matters. So no, I do not regret it. Not for a single second." Sungmin kissed her forehead. "I love you more than I ever thought possible. You and Zuri are my entire world." "I love you too," Ayira said. "My dangerous, wonderful, perfect husband." That night, after checking on their sleeping daughter, they made love in their new bedroom. It was different now than in those early days. There was no desperation, no fear, no uncertainty, just pure love and trust and passion that had only grown stronger with time. Later, lying tangled together in the darkness, Ayira thought about her journey, from a scared 19-year-old girl forced into marriage, to a strong woman who had found her place in the world. She had never imagined that being forced to marry a 42-year-old Korean Mafia boss would lead to the greatest love of her life. "What are you thinking about?" Sungmin asked, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare back. "I am thinking that sometimes the worst situations can lead to the best outcomes," Ayira said. "I am thinking that I am grateful for every moment, even the scary ones, because they led me to you." Sungmin rolled her over and kissed her deeply. "We have forever, my love. Forever to build our family, grow old together, and love each other. This is just the beginning." And as she fell asleep in her husband's arms, with their baby sleeping down the hall and their future stretching bright before them, Ayira knew he was right. This was their forever beginning, and it was more beautiful than any fairy tale. If you loved Ayira and Sungmin's passionate journey from forced marriage to true love, smash that like button and subscribe for more steamy romance stories. Drop a comment telling me which moment made your heart race the fastest. See you in the next story where love conquers all.